Look behind the frames, Maggie, all of them. Those were my husband's last words before he died. I thought it was the morphine talking. Dying people say strange things. But 3 days after his funeral, I couldn't sleep. I took down our wedding photo and turned it over. Cut away the backing. There was an envelope taped to the back. Fresh tape. Inside was a letter in his handwriting. It started with an apology, then one sentence about a name I'd never heard. I stood in my kitchen at 2 o'clock in the morning, holding a letter from my dead husband, and realized I'd been married to a stranger. My children had been acting strange for weeks. Mysterious phone calls, whispered conversations. They stopped when I walked in, searching through their father's things when they thought I wasn't looking. They knew something they weren't telling me. The letter said to look behind all the frames, every picture in the house. So I did. Birth certificates with names I didn't recognize, documents that made no sense, a bank account with more money than we should have had, and a business card for a private investigator. My husband had been hiding something big enough to take to his grave, something that was about to tear my family apart or bring us together in a way I never imagined. Before we continue, please leave a comment telling us where you're watching from and subscribe to the Still Got It True Stories channel. We're creating a community of people who know that our best chapters can happen at any age. Now, back to the story. The grass was still wet from the morning rain. I could feel it soaking through my shoes as I stood at the edge of David's grave, watching them lower the casket. The cemetery workers moved quietly, professionally. They'd done this before, many times. I hadn't. Michael stood on my right, his hand on my elbow like I might fall over. Emily was on my left, close enough that I could smell her perfume, something floral and expensive. She'd worn it to her wedding, I remembered, because David had sneezed during the vows. People were talking to me. I could hear their voices, low and careful. So sorry for your loss. He was a good man. If you need anything, I nodded, said thank you. Did whatever you're supposed to do when your husband of 42 years is being put in the ground. Michael's phone buzzed. He pulled it from his pocket, glanced at the screen, then put it away. 2 minutes later, it buzzed again. This time, he stepped back and answered it, his voice too quiet for me to hear. Emily noticed, too. She watched him over my shoulder, her jaw tight. Who keeps calling him? I asked. Work, Emily said. Too fast. You know how Michael is. I did know. Michael ran his own consulting firm and treated his phone like a lifeline, but he'd turned it off during the service. I'd seen him do it. Emily's phone chimed. She didn't answer it, just squeezed my arm and smiled the kind of smile you give someone when you're trying to distract them from something. The service ended. People started to leave. I stood there for a while longer, watching the workers fill in the dirt. Michael and Emily hovered. They didn't speak to each other, but they kept looking at each other, having some kind of conversation I wasn't part of. Mom, Michael said, we should go. I let them guide me to the car. 3 days earlier, I'd been sitting in a different chair, in a different room, with the same 2 people hovering over me. The hospital room smelled like bleach, and something underneath it that bleach couldn't cover. David was in the bed, small under the white sheets. They'd turned off most of the machines an hour before. Now it was just the one monitoring his heart, beeping slower and slower. Michael and Emily had gone to get coffee. I knew they were giving me time alone with him. I appreciated it, even though I didn't know what to do with it. David's hand was cold. I held it anyway. His eyes opened just a little. He tried to focus on my face. Maggie, he said. His voice was almost nothing. I'm here. He squeezed my hand. It took him everything he had. Look behind the frames, he said. Each word cost him. All of them. Find Daniel. Who's Daniel? Tell him I looked for him. His eyes were wet. Tell him I'm sorry, David. I don't understand. But he was already gone. His hand went slack in mine. The monitor made a sound I'll hear for the rest of my life. Michael and Emily came back and found me still sitting there, still holding his hand. My house felt wrong when we got back from the cemetery. Too big, too quiet. We'll stay tonight, Emily said. She was already taking off her coat. You don't have to do that. We want to, Mom. Michael was heading toward the kitchen. I'll make coffee. I sat on the couch and let them take over. Emily brought me tea. I didn't drink it. Michael moved around the house like he was looking for something. He went into David's office and stayed there for 10 minutes. When he came out, he was frowning. What were you doing in there? I asked. Just checking if Dad had any paperwork we need to deal with. Insurance stuff. I can handle that. I know you can, but let us help. Emily sat next to me and took my hand. We're worried about you. You shouldn't be alone right now. I've been alone before. Not like this. She was right, but I didn't say so. I let her hold my hand and pretend she was comforting me while her brother went through David's office. They left around 10 o'clock. Emily hugged me at the door. Michael kissed my forehead. They both made me promise to call if I needed anything. Their phones buzzed as they walked to their cars. I locked the door behind them and stood in the hallway, listening to the silence. David's voice was still in my head. Look behind the frames. I'd spent 3 days telling myself it was the morphine. Dying people say strange things. Daniel was probably someone from his childhood or a cousin I'd never met. It didn't mean anything, but I couldn't sleep. At 2 o'clock in the morning, I was sitting on the couch in the dark, staring at the wedding photo on the mantel. We'd been so young. David was 29, I was 26. His suit was brown because that's what his friend loaned him. My dress was my mother's. We got married in a courthouse and went to a diner after. Best day of my life. I got up and took the frame off the mantel. It was heavier than I expected. I turned it over. The back was covered with that brown paper they used to seal frames. It looked old, untouched. I almost put it back. Instead, I went to the kitchen and found a knife, slid it under the edge of the paper, and cut it away. There was an envelope taped to the back of the frame. The tape was fresh, electrical tape, gray and industrial. David had put this here recently. My hands were shaking when I pulled it off. Inside the envelope was a letter in David's handwriting. The sight of it made my throat close up. His writing was messy, always had been. He wrote like a man in a hurry. There was also a business card, white, simple, Frank Delgado, private investigator, a phone number, an address in the city. I sat down at the kitchen table and unfolded the letter. My dearest Maggie, if you're reading this, I'm gone, and I'm sorry. I'm sorry for 42 years of a lie I told by omission. Everything between us was real. The love, the life, the children all real. But I wasn't whole. I left part of myself behind to protect someone. The man you married was David Brennan. But I was born Henry Kovac. I changed everything about myself to keep someone I love alive. I had a son before I met you. His name is Daniel, and I gave him up to save his life. I was 22, broke, and desperate. Alina, the woman I loved, was dying, pregnant with our child. I borrowed money from a dangerous man to try to save her. She died anyway, and the man came for me and our baby. To protect Daniel, I gave him up for adoption and disappeared. It was the only way to keep him safe. I've searched for him for 48 years. I found him 6 months ago, but this illness found me first. I'm out of time. You're reading this because I trust you more than I trusted myself. Find him. Give him the letter I wrote for him. Tell him I never stopped looking. Tell him I'm sorry. Michael and Emily will be scared and angry. They won't understand at first. Help them see that love doesn't divide. It multiplies. Frank Delgado helped me find Daniel. He'll help you, too. You're the strongest person I ever knew. Finish what I couldn't. I love you. Forgive me, David. I read it 3 times. Then I put it down on the table and stared at the wall. My husband had a son who was 48 or 49 years old, a son he'd never told me about, a son he'd been looking for since before I met him. Michael and Emily had a brother. I had questions, too many, but David had left me answers. Behind the frames, he'd said, all of them. I looked around the kitchen. There were frames everywhere, on the walls, on the shelves, on the refrigerator. 42 years of marriage documented in photographs. How many of them were hiding something? I picked up Frank Delgado's card and held it up to the light. The paper was thick, expensive. A private investigator. David had hired a private investigator. I looked at the letter again. You're the strongest person I ever knew. He'd always said that when I went back to work after Emily was born, when my mother died, when I had to put my father in a nursing home, you're stronger than you think, Maggie. I folded the letter and put it back in the envelope with the business card. Then I went to the living room and started taking down frames. Thank you for meeting me, he said. I wasn't sure you would. I wasn't sure either, I replied. Not at first. A waitress came by, and we both ordered coffee. Neither of us would drink it. Daniel pulled a worn manila envelope from his jacket pocket and set it on the table between us. I brought everything I have. Thought you might want to see it. Proof I'm who I say I am. I believe you, I said. But yes, I'd like to see. He opened the envelope carefully, pulling out documents one by one. His adoption certificate, Daniel Robert Novak, adopted August 19, 1975, birth parents listed as sealed records. A photograph of an older couple holding a baby. The woman had kind eyes and graying hair. The man wore glasses and smiled at the camera. My parents, Daniel said. The Novaks, they adopted me when I was 5 weeks old, raised me in Pennsylvania. They were good people. They died 12 years ago. Car accident. His voice was flat. After that, I started looking, trying to find out where I came from. He showed me more papers, court petitions to unseal his adoption records, letters from lawyers, a thick file documenting years of searching. I hired an investigator about 4 years ago, he said. Guy took my money and found nothing. Hired another one about 2 years back. He found the birth certificate. Baby boy Kovac, born July 18, 1975. Mother Elena Torres, father Henry Kovac. He looked at me. Your husband was Henry Kovac before he was David Brennan, right? Yes. It took me another year to find the name change records. Henry James Kovac became David Warren Brennan in September 1975. I traced him here, found the obituary online about a month ago, saw he had a wife and 2 children. He stopped. I'm sorry about your loss. I know it's recent. Thank you. When I contacted your children, they thought I was lying or trying to scam you. I don't blame them. I pulled my own folder out. Your father left me this behind picture frames in our house. He hid pieces of his past life there for me to find after he died. One spread the documents on the table. Daniel leaned forward. His hand shook slightly as he picked up the birth certificate with his name on it. Baby boy Kovac. He kept this, Daniel said, his voice breaking a little. He kept my birth certificate. He kept everything he could. I showed him the photograph of young Henry and Elena, his birth parents. Daniel stared at it for a long time. That's my mother, Elena Torres. She was 20 years old. She's beautiful. He touched the edge of the photo with one finger. What happened to her? This was the hard part. The part I'd been practicing in my head all morning. She died the day you were born. Complications from childbirth. Daniel set the photo down carefully and closed his eyes for a moment. And my father, Henry, why did he give me up? He was 22, broke. Elena was sick during the pregnancy and needed medical care they couldn't afford. Your father borrowed money from a dangerous man to pay for it, a loan shark. When Elena died anyway, he couldn't repay the debt. Daniel opened his eyes and looked at me. The man came after him, threatened to kill him, then threatened to kill you to force payment. Your father realized that as long as you were connected to him, you were in danger. So, he made a choice. He gave you up for adoption with sealed records so that man couldn't trace you through him. Then he changed his name and disappeared. It was the only way he could keep you safe. Daniel sat back in his chair and stared at the ceiling. I grew up thinking he didn't want me, that he abandoned me. He wanted you. He just couldn't keep you. Did he ever try to find me? He tried for 48 years. He hired investigators. He spent thousands of dollars. The adoption was closed and sealed. The laws made it almost impossible. I paused. He found you 6 months ago. Finally. Daniel looked at me sharply. He found me. His investigator found your petition to unseal your adoption records, tracked you down, gave your father a full report 6 months ago. 6 months. Daniel's voice was hollow. He knew where I was for 6 months and never contacted me. He wanted to meet you face to face. Then, he went to the doctor and found out he had a serious illness. It was terminal. He had maybe a year, then 6 months, then weeks. So he died before we could meet. Yes. Daniel put his head in his hands and sat like that for a long time. I waited. When he looked up, his eyes were red. I was so close. We were so close. I know. I'm sorry. What was he like? Your husband, David. I thought about how to answer that. He was kind, quiet. He worked hard. He loved his family. He was a good father to Michael and Emily. I hesitated. He was also a man carrying a secret that weighed on him every day. I didn't know it until after he died, but I felt it sometimes, a sadness in him I couldn't reach. Did he ever talk about me? Not to me, not directly, but he saved money for you. For 40 years, he put it in an account in both our names and told me it was for emergencies. I signed the papers without knowing what it was really for. He was saving for you the whole time. How much? $237. Daniel stared at me. That's not possible. It's possible. I saw the records. Deposits every month for 40 years. He never stopped. Why would he do that? Because he never stopped being your father. Daniel looked down at his hands. I have 2 kids, teenagers, Lily, 16, and Connor, 14. I've been struggling to pay for their college funds, working double shifts sometimes. He laughed. but it wasn't happy. And my father, who I never met, was saving money from me this whole time. He wanted you to have it. He wanted you to have everything he couldn't give you when you were born. I reached into the folder and pulled out the sealed envelope for Daniel, written in David's shaky handwriting. He left you this. It's a letter. I haven't read it. It's yours. Daniel took the envelope like it might break. He held it for a moment. Can I open it now? Of course. He slid his finger under the flap and pulled out several pages. David's handwriting covered them, messier than usual from the pain medication and weakness of his final weeks. I watched Daniel read, watched his face change, watched tears start and then fall. When he finished, he folded the letter carefully and put it back in the envelope, wiping his eyes with the back of his hand. He said he wished he could have been there for my graduation, my wedding, when my kids were born. He said he would have given anything to watch me grow up. Daniel's voice cracked. He said giving me up was the hardest thing he ever did, that he did it to save my life. He stopped, swallowed hard. He said he was proud of me, that I turned out better than he could have hoped, that he was sorry for every birthday he missed. He meant all of it. He signed it Henry, not David. That was his real name, the name he was born with. He wanted you to know him as he really was. Daniel looked at me. Why are you doing this? You didn't have to find me. You could have read his letter and thrown everything away. Your life would be simpler. My husband asked me to do this. He trusted me to finish what he couldn't. And that's the only reason. I thought about it. No, I wanted to meet you. I wanted to know the person my husband spent 48 years searching for. I wanted to understand what mattered to him enough to carry it in silence for our entire marriage. I paused. What about your children, Michael and Emily? Do they know you're here? They know. They're not happy about it. Are they going to be a problem? Probably. At first, I reached across the table and touched the photograph of young Henry and Alina. But they'll come around. You're their brother, half-brother, brother. Daniel looked at the letter again, at the photographs, at all the evidence of a father who'd loved him from a distance for almost 50 years. What happens now? He asked. That's up to you. Your father left you money, a lot of it, it's yours. No strings attached. I paused. He also left you a family, if you want it. You mean you, I mean me, and Michael, and Emily, and their children, your nieces and nephews. I smiled a little. It's complicated and messy, and they're going to be difficult about it at first. But if you want to be part of this family, you are. Your father made that clear in his letter to me. Daniel was quiet for a long time. Then he said, I've spent my whole adult life wondering where I came from, who I was, why I was given up. Now I know. He looked at me. He gave me up to save my life. He spent his whole life trying to find me, and he left me you. He did. Then yes, I want to meet them, Michael and Emily. I want to know my family, even if they're not welcoming at first. Even then, I gathered up the photographs and documents, put them back in the folder, except for the ones that belonged to Daniel, the letter, the photo of his parents, his birth certificate. Keep these, I said. They're yours. He took them carefully. Thank you for believing me, for coming here, for finishing what he started. Thank you for searching, for not giving up. He would have wanted you to keep looking. We stood up. The coffee we'd ordered sat cold on the table. Daniel walked me to my car. We stood in the parking lot, and I looked up at him. He really was tall. David had been tall, too. Can I call you? He asked. Maybe we could meet again. I have questions about him, about his life, what he was like. Yes, I'd like that. I don't want to make things harder for you with your children. Let me worry about that. He nodded, looked down at his hands holding the letter and the photograph of his parents. I didn't think anyone would believe me. Your kids certainly didn't. They will eventually. You sound more certain than I feel. I'm not certain about them, but I'm certain about you. I pulled my keys from my purse. This is complicated, Daniel. It's going to take time, but your father wanted you to have a family, so that's what I'm going to give you. He looked at me for a long moment, then suddenly stepped forward and hugged me, quick and awkward, but real. Thank you, he said into my shoulder. Thank you for not turning me away. I hugged him back. He smelled like sawdust and coffee, like work and worry and hope. When he pulled away, his eyes were red again. I'll wait to hear from you. You'll, asterisk. I drove home with the folder on the passenger seat and Daniel's phone number written on a scrap of paper in my wallet. David had a son, and now I had another choice to make. Tell Michael and Emily I'd met him or give Daniel and myself time to build something real first. I decided to wait. I met Daniel 4 times over the next 3 weeks. Coffee at first, then lunch at a diner halfway between us, then a walk around a park when the weather turned warm. We talked about David. I told him about the man I'd married, the way he read the newspaper every morning with his coffee, how he hummed when he was fixing something in the garage, the time he drove through a snowstorm to bring Emily her forgotten retainer before a school dance. Daniel told me about the Novaks, his adoptive parents who'd loved him and raised him well, his mother, who made him practice piano even though he was terrible at it, his father, who taught him carpentry and how to fix a car engine. He showed me photos of Lily and Connor. Lily looked like Alina, dark hair and serious eyes. Connor had Daniel's build, already tall at 14. They're good kids, Daniel said, dealing with the divorce, living with their mother most of the time, but spending weekends with me. I didn't tell Michael or Emily about any of it. I meant to. Every time I picked up the phone to call them, I put it back down. The deception sat heavy in my chest, but I kept going back. Daniel needed time. I needed time. That's what I told myself. On a Tuesday afternoon, Michael showed up at my door unannounced. I knew the moment I saw his face that he'd found out. "Where were you this morning?" he asked. "No, hello. No, how are you? I had coffee with a friend." "What friend? Does it matter?" "It matters when the friend is the man claiming to be Dad's son." Michael pushed past me into the house. Emily was behind him, her face tight. They both went straight to the kitchen and stood there, waiting for me. I closed the door and followed them. "You've been meeting with him," Michael said, "for weeks behind our backs. I've been getting to know him. There's a difference. We asked you to wait. We asked you to let us look into this more before you did anything. You asked me to wait forever. That's different than waiting." Emily pulled out her phone and set it on the table. "I have a tracker app for Mom's safety, in case she falls or gets lost." She looked at me. "You've been driving 2 hours away every few days. Same coffee shop, same diner." I checked. Daniel Novak lives 20 minutes from both places. I should have been angry about the tracking. Instead, I just felt tired. "Yes, I've been meeting Daniel. He's your father's son. He has a right to know his family." "We don't know that for sure," Michael said. "Yes, we do. You saw the evidence, the birth certificate, the adoption papers, the name change. It's all real. Documents can be faked. Not like that. Not going back 50 years. I pulled out a chair and sat down. "Your father left me instructions. He wanted me to find Daniel. He wanted Daniel to have a family. I'm doing what he asked." Michael leaned against the counter, arms crossed. "Dad lied to us our entire lives. How do we know he was telling the truth about this?" "Because I found it behind the picture frames he told me to look behind. Because a private investigator he hired for 15 years confirmed it. Because Daniel has been searching for his birth parents since his adoptive parents died 12 years ago. I looked at both of them, and because Daniel looks exactly like your father." Emily sat down across from me. "You've met him multiple times. What's he like?" "He's kind, careful. He works as an electrician. He has 2 teenagers, Lily and Connor. He's struggling, but he's trying." I paused. "He's nothing like what you think he is." "What do we think he is?" Michael asked. "A con artist, a liar, someone trying to take advantage. Can you blame us?" "No, but I'm asking you to trust me now. I've spent 3 weeks getting to know him. He's real. This is real." Michael and Emily looked at each other, that silent conversation they'd been having since the funeral. "We want to meet him," Emily said. "You already told him you weren't interested." "That was before we knew you were sneaking around to see him." Michael's voice had an edge. "If he's going to be part of this family, we need to know who he is. He's your brother. Half-brother. Does that matter?" Michael didn't answer. I stood up and went to the drawer where I'd been keeping everything. I pulled out the folder with all the documents and set it on the table between us. "Look at it again. All of it. The birth certificate with his name on it. The photo of your father when he was 22, holding a baby. Elena's death certificate from the day Daniel was born. The adoption papers. The name change." I spread it all out. "Your father was Henry Kovac before he was David Brennan. He gave up his son to save his life. Then he spent 48 years trying to find him." Emily picked up the photo of young Henry and Elena, stared at it. "I've never seen Dad look like this so young. He was 23 when she died, 22 when Daniel was born, and he never told us, never told you, just carried it alone for our entire lives." She looked up at me. "Did he ever think about telling us? Or were we just part of the lie he was living? You were everything to him. But he never stopped being Daniel's father, too." Both things were true. Michael picked up the bank statements. $237,000. He saved all this for a son he couldn't find. He never gave up looking. He looked at me. What does Daniel want? The money? A family? What? He wants to know where he came from, who his parents were, why they gave him up. I gathered the papers back into the folder. The same things you'd want if you'd spent your whole life wondering. Michael was quiet for a long time. Then he said, "We want to meet him. Soon. Here, it's going to be difficult." I don't care. I pulled out my phone and sent Daniel a text. "Can you come to my house tomorrow afternoon? Michael and Emily want to meet you." His response came fast. "Yes, what time?" We agreed on 2. The next day I cleaned the house even though it didn't need it. Made coffee nobody would drink. Set out cookies nobody would eat. Daniel arrived 5 minutes early. I saw his truck pull up and went to open the door before he could knock. "They're already here," I said. "In the living room." "How angry are they?" "Very. Should I have brought something?" "Flowers. I don't know the protocol for meeting siblings who think you're a fraud. Just bring yourself." He followed me into the living room. Michael and Emily stood up when we walked in. The three of them looked at each other. The resemblance was impossible to ignore. Daniel had David's height, his build, his hands. Michael had David's eyes. Emily had his smile. They were siblings, whether they wanted to be or not. "Daniel, this is Michael and Emily, my children." I paused. "Your half-brother and sister." "Half-brother," Michael corrected, his voice cold. Daniel held out his hand. "It's good to meet you, finally." Michael looked at the hand for a long moment before shaking it. His grip was brief, formal. Emily didn't offer her hand at all, just said, "Sit down. We have questions." Daniel sat in the armchair across from the couch. Michael and Emily sat together like a united front. I stayed standing near the doorway, ready to referee. "Tell us who you are," Michael said. "From the beginning." Daniel took a breath. "My name is Daniel Novak. I'm 49 years old. I was born July 18, 1975, and given up for adoption 5 weeks later. I was adopted by Paul and Linda Novak. They raised me in Pennsylvania. They died 12 years ago in a car accident. After they died, I started looking for my birth parents." "Why?" Emily asked. "Because I wanted to know where I came from, who I was, medical history, family history, all the things adoptees wonder about." "And you found Dad, eventually." "It took years. The adoption was closed. Records were sealed. I hired investigators. Got nowhere for a long time. Then I found the birth certificate. Baby boy Kovac, mother Elena Torres, father Henry Kovac. From there, I found the name change records. Henry Kovac became David Brennan, and then he died," Michael said. "And then he died. I saw the obituary, found you two on social media, reached out." Daniel looked at them. "You told me to leave your mother alone, that I was a fraud." I understood. I would have thought the same thing. "So, why are you here now?" Michael asked. "Because your mother called me. Because she found letters your father left behind picture frames. Letters that explained everything. Because she believed me." Emily leaned forward. "What do you want from us?" "Nothing you don't want to give. I'm not here for money. I'm not here to take anything from you. I just wanted to know my father. I wanted to meet his family." He paused. "My family, if you'll have me." Michael's jaw was tight. "Dad never mentioned you. Not once in 42 years. How do you explain that?" "He couldn't. The man he borrowed money from threatened to kill me. The only way to keep me safe was to completely disappear from my life. Change his name, move away, never contact me. If he'd told anyone about me, it could have gotten back to that man." Daniel's voice was steady. "He gave me up to save my life. That's what Mom said. It's what he said in the letter he left for me." Daniel pulled the envelope from his jacket pocket. "He found me 6 months before he died. His investigator finally tracked me down. He was going to come meet me. Then he got the serious diagnosis. He knew he didn't have time." Emily's eyes filled. "He died knowing you existed but never meeting you." "Yes. That must have been hard." "It was harder for him. He spent 48 years searching, finally found me and ran out of time." Daniel looked down at the letter. "He said he wished he could have been there for my graduation, my wedding, when my kids were born. He said giving me up was the hardest thing he ever did." The room was quiet. Michael finally spoke. "You have kids?" "2. Lily's 16. Connor's 14. So Dad has grandchildren he never met." "Yes. And you have a niece and nephew you didn't know about." Emily pulled out her phone. Can I see photos? Daniel showed her pictures of Lily and Connor. Emily looked at them for a long time. Connor looks like Dad. The same build he does. Lily looks like her grandmother. My birth mother, Elena. Michael stood up and walked to the window. Stood there with his back to us. Emily kept looking at the photos. Where do they live? Do they know about us? They live with their mother mostly. I have them on weekends. And yes, I told them I found my birth father's family. They wanted to meet you. They did. They've never had extended family before. My ex-wife's parents are gone. The Novaks are gone. It's been just us. Daniel put his phone away. But I told them we'd have to wait, see how things went. Michael turned from the window. What was in the letter? The one Dad left for you. Daniel's voice went quiet. He said he searched for me his entire adult life. That he never stopped being my father, even though he couldn't be with me. He said he was proud of me, that I turned out better than he could have hoped. He stopped. He said he loved me, and he was sorry. Emily was crying now, wiping her eyes with her hands. Michael's face was stony, but his eyes were wet. He never stopped looking for you. No, he didn't. That's why he was sad sometimes. Mom said she felt it but couldn't reach it. It was you. It was always you. I'm sorry. I never meant to cause him pain. Or you. You didn't. He did what he thought was right, kept you secret to keep you safe. Michael came back to the couch and sat down. I'm angry at him for lying, but I understand why he did it. The room fell quiet again, but it was different this time, less hostile. Just heavy with grief and confusion and the weight of 50 years. Emily finally looked up. I'd like to meet them, Lily and Connor, if that's okay with you. Daniel's eyes widened. You would? They're family, right? Yes, they are. Michael didn't say anything for a long time. Then he pulled out his phone. Give me your number. I'm not promising anything, but I'm not shutting you out either. Daniel gave him the number. Michael saved it. Emily did the same. When they stood to leave, Michael stopped at the door and looked back at Daniel. He loved you, Michael said. I don't know how I feel about any of this yet, but I know he loved you. The letter, the money, the searching. He wouldn't have done all that if he didn't. I know. Thank you for saying it. Michael nodded once and walked out. Emily gave Daniel a small smile before following her brother. I closed the door behind them and turned to Daniel. He was still sitting in the armchair, looking stunned. That went better than I expected, I said. They didn't throw me out. They didn't. They want to meet my kids. Emily does. Michael will come around. Daniel stood up slowly. Thank you for making this happen, for pushing them. Your father asked me to. I'm just doing what he wanted. No, you're doing more than that. You're giving me a family. I walked him to the door, watched him drive away in his blue truck. Michael and Emily had met their brother. It wasn't acceptance yet, but it was a beginning. Emily called Daniel first. I heard about it from both of them. She asked him to coffee, brought photo albums from when she and Michael were kids, showed him pictures of David at different ages. Daniel did the same with photos of the Novaks, his adoptive parents. They discovered small things. Both of them were left. Both hated mushrooms. They had the same, laughed quick and surprised. Michael took longer. 3 weeks after the meeting at my house, he sent Daniel a text. Just an address and a time. They met at David's grave. Daniel told me about it later. How they stood on opposite sides of the headstone, not speaking at first. How Michael finally said, he should have told us. How Daniel answered, he was protecting me. And you. They didn't hug, didn't make promises. But Michael stopped leaving the room when Daniel's name came up. I handled the money transfer at the bank. $237,000 moved from the joint account David and I had held for 40 years into an account in Daniel's name. Daniel sat across from me at the bank manager's desk and stared at the papers. This is real. It's real. I've never had anything like this. Your father wanted you to have it, for your kids' college, for whatever you need. He signed the papers with a shaking hand. Later that week, Emily brought Daniel a box. Inside was David's watch, the one his father had given him. Michael added a photo album, the old leather kind with black pages and corners for holding pictures. Family photos, going back to David's parents. You should have these, Emily said. You're part of this, too. Daniel couldn't speak, just nodded and took the box. The weekend after that, Daniel brought Lily and Connor to my house. I saw them through the window before they knocked. Lily, tall and serious, dark hair pulled back. Connor, lanky and nervous, hands in his pockets. Both of them looked like they weren't sure they belonged here. I opened the door before they could decide to leave. You must be Lily and Connor. I'm Margaret. Lily smiled carefully. Our dad talks about you a lot. Good things, I hope. He says you gave him his family back. Daniel stood behind them, proud and terrified. They wanted to meet you. We sat in the living room. I showed them photos of David, told them stories. Connor asked questions about what kind of work David did, what kind of car he drove. Lily asked quieter questions about what he was like, if he was happy. He was, I said, but he carried sadness, too. Now I know why. Before they left, Lily hugged me. Quick, but real. Can we call you Grandma Margaret? Dad said it would be okay, but we wanted to ask. My throat went tight. I'd like that very much. 2 weeks later, Emily brought her kids over when Daniel brought his 4 teenagers who didn't know each other, sitting awkwardly in my living room, eating cookies and looking at their phones. Then Connor mentioned he played basketball. Emily's son played too. They started talking about teams and games, and suddenly they were just kids with something in common. The girls took longer, but by the end of the afternoon, Lily was showing Emily's daughter something on her phone, and they were both laughing. I made too much food. Michael showed up late, but he showed up. He brought his family, stood in the kitchen with Daniel, and talked about work, about raising teenagers, about normal things. It wasn't perfect. Michael still called Daniel by his full name, never just his first name the way Emily did. There were silences that felt heavy, moments when someone would start to say something about David and then stop, unsure, but they were trying. A month after the first meeting, I hosted dinner. Everyone, all 3 of David's children, their families, all the grandchildren. My dining room table wasn't big enough, so we used the kitchen table, pushed together awkwardly with a board across the gap. Mismatched chairs, too many people talking over each other. Emily told a story about the time David drove her to 3 different stores, looking for a specific color of ribbon for a school project. Michael added the detail that it was 11 at night and everything was closed except a 24-hour craft store 2 towns over. He did that kind of thing, Michael said, drove forever if we needed something. Daniel listened, quiet. Then he said, in his letter to me, he wrote that he wished he could have done things like that, driven me places, been there for small things. The table went silent. He missed all of it, Daniel continued, but he thought about it. He imagined it. That counts for something. Emily reached across the table and squeezed his hand. The conversation moved on. Lighter things. Someone told a joke. The kids argued about something. Dishes got passed and dropped and passed again. I watched from my seat at the head of the table. 3 of David's children, 7 grandchildren, a family built on secrets and sacrifice and love that survived both. After everyone left, the house was a mess. Dishes everywhere, chairs out of place. It smelled like food and coffee and too many people in a small space. I started cleaning up, then stopped, sat down at the table instead. David's wedding photo was still on the mantel where I'd put it back after finding his letter behind it. Next to it was a space I'd been thinking about for weeks. I pulled out my phone and looked at the photo I'd taken during dinner. All of Michael, Emily, and Daniel standing together behind the table, their families around them, me, at the end, smiling. The next day, I had it printed and framed, brought it home, and carried it to the mantel. I set it next to David's and my wedding photo. 2 frames, 2 versions of family, both real. David had given me 42 years of marriage, 2 children, a life built on trust, even when he was carrying weight I couldn't see. Then, in death, he'd given me one more gift, a son who'd spent his whole life searching. Children who learned that family could grow even in grief. Grandchildren who'd never met their grandfather, but carried pieces of him in their faces and their gestures. I touched both frames, the young couple in the first, not knowing what was coming. The full table in the second, proof of what we'd become. I finished it. I said to the photo of David, like you asked, the house was quiet, but it didn't feel empty. It felt like the pause between gatherings, like people would be back soon. They would be. Daniel was bringing the kids next weekend. Emily wanted to go through more photo albums. Michael had mentioned something about teaching Connor carpentry the way David had taught him. We were figuring it out, learning how to be a family that started with secrets but wouldn't end with them. I picked up the wedding photo and looked at David's young face. You kept him safe, I said, and I brought him home. I put the photo back and stepped away. 2 frames on the mantel, the family that was and the family that is, both mattered, both were real, and David, wherever he was, could rest, knowing his son was no longer alone. 6 months have passed. Today is a sunny day, and the house is full of life again. We are celebrating Lily's birthday. She is turning 17. I watch as Michael helps Connor in the garage, showing him the ropes, just like his father once did. Their laughter drifts through the open door. Emily and Daniel are sitting at the kitchen table, looking through an old photo album, and I hear her say, "No, look here. You have the exact same grin as Dad." Lily comes over to me by the grill where I'm flipping burgers. "Grandma Margaret." "Yes, dear. Thank you for having this party for me." "That's what family is for," I say, and it's no longer just a phrase, but the truth. She looks at her father, her uncle and aunt, and all the cousins running around the yard. Dad seems more at peace now that he's here. I nod. He does. We all are. Later, as the sun sets and guests start to leave, Daniel stays behind to help clean up. "You didn't have to do all this," he says, wiping down the table. "I wanted to." I stop, a drying towel in my hand. "Your father, he would have been so happy today to see this, to see all of us together." Daniel puts the cloth down and looks at me. His eyes, so like David's, glisten in the kitchen light. "He would have been happy, Margaret, because you made it happen. You brought us all together." We finish cleaning and walk out onto the porch. The night is quiet, and there's a chill in the air. He hugs me goodbye. "See you Saturday," he says. "I'll pick you up for breakfast. I'll be waiting." I stand on the porch and watch his taillights disappear around the corner. Then, I go back inside. The house is quiet, but filled with the echo of laughter and the promise of more gatherings to come. I walk into the living room and stop in front of the mantel. Two frames. On the left, David and I, a young couple whose story was just beginning. On the right, our family today, larger, louder, and more complex than we ever could have imagined. I straighten both frames, dust them off, and take a step back. The story of David and Henry, of secrets and all his quiet longing yet is finished. Its place has been taken by a new story, ours, and it's only just beginning.